Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and today I'm going to do part 2 of Lime Green. Last time I went over the drums, bass, other rhythm instruments, etc. But today I'm going to get into the stuff that maybe you're most interested in, at least I am, and that is the guitars. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did. I used the unreleased plugin MGuitarchitect that allows you to make your own plugin chains and has lots of cool features and things. I'll show you a little bit with that, although to be honest, I didn't use a lot of the advanced features that you could use with this. I kept it pretty bare bones, and I did lots of EQing and compression outside of this, although you can do it inside. So let's get started. I'll show you, actually I'll start from here so you can just hear it in case you haven't heard it. If you want to hear more, you can check on my page and I have the whole thing, but let's fast forward here and I'll let you hear this part, this middle part, because I'll start with this clean solo. So it's just these chords here. Basically what I was trying to do is I wanted something that was a little bit dirty. I wanted like a classic like British sound, but I wanted to be clean. I didn't want too much distortion on there. So let's go here. I'll solo it for you so you can hear it. So as you can see, I have everything here. I have the tuner, which if you've seen him tuner before, you know what that's like. But I use this Apollo amp. This is like the British style amp here. I turn the bass up a little bit, middle down. I turn the gain down because this can get a bit gainy. And I wanted like a thin, almost funk sound, but I didn't want to use an American style amp for it. I have the dynamic EQ because I noticed some resonances. Listening back, it's not that bad actually, but when I was doing it, I was like, let me get these out of here. I used the remove resonances feature to find these. And there's some like, I think the fifth was like, that one wasn't bothering me. So I just, let that go. But that's what I did. And in here, I use this Excelsior Small. So this one basically is a kind of like thinner sounding cabinet. The Excelsior Small and Huge, even though it says Huge, basically the idea is they sound good in a mix. There's not a lot of bottom end like you usually get in an IR. So you can drop them in there and you don't have to do lots of low cuts or high cuts usually. Although it kind of depends on your mix, but you're not going to get that overpowering bass or anything like that. So that's what I did for this. And then I put in the ERs, which is early reflections here. I have it on the bathroom mode. I'll play it and I'll turn it on and off so you can hear it. And you hear it's just a little bit more diffuse there, and it's not right in your face. That's what I really like this ER for. I turned the width down, like I think it's usually set like in the middle, but I moved it down a little bit because I don't want it, super wide, but you just want a little bit of space around it, so it sounds like it's someplace nice. I tried it with chorus, but I believe it didn't sound good, so I took it off. Next, I'll show you what I did outside it. I use lots of compression here because I didn't want it jumping out. This one is played with these two rhythm guitars on the side, have this one in the middle, and then I have like a lead going on the top. So I really don't want this to jump out and like take over. So I have this meldy, very meld here. Kind of evens it out, and in some cases it actually makes it a little bit more punchy on some hits. So that's all I'm doing there. And then the auto dynamic EQ, I just put the low pass and high pass. I could have actually done it inside MGuitarchitect. I don't know why I did it this way, but one of the reasons I wanted to use the dynamic EQ, which actually is inside MGuitarchitect, but afterwards when I was mixing it, I cut off the lows and the highs because I didn't want it to get in the way of the bass. It wasn't too bad, but I was like, when I have electric piano, I have two other guitars, I have a bass and other things, I really need everything separated. And here, the same thing. I didn't want it to get in the way of the cymbals because here I'm hitting the cymbals really hard. with the drums. So that's all I'm doing. And here at on this 4, what it's doing is I used some dynamics so that way when it's hitting really hard, it's ducking this, or actually it's just pulling it down like a compressor, but only on this specific frequency, because I noticed like that pick attack was a bit too hard. So it sounds like this. So me, it just had a tendency to get a little bit too spiky there, so I pulled that down. So that's all I'm doing there. And I think that's it. I used the M multi-analyzer just to analyze things and see where the collisions were happening. It's really useful for that, but maybe I'll show that later. Let me show you the other rhythm stuff here. I'm basically doing the same thing here, and I just have these panned left and right. So here, oh, this is a good thing. I should mention this. I have this M notepad here, and I mentioned here, I use the second position pickup, the split position without the coil tap. And so this is just information I put down about the guitars. And the reason I did this was because I thought, what if I mess this up, or I have to re-record this, or I have to do like some punch-ins. And sometimes I forget like which guitar did I use, or what pickup I used. So you can put these little notes in there, so that way you can remind yourself later. So that's just a small little note, that comes with a free bundle, and it's useful for things like this. It's great. But anyways, let's get into this. I'll do the left one first. I tried putting them at 100% left, but to me it didn't sound right, so I found like 70% sounded good. I have the tuner here. I have the amp. KC Special is one of my favorite clean amps here. I put it on the Missouri setting. That's a little bit dirtier, and I like that. Just a little bit of drive here, and I have the gain up, maybe a 5.5. And then I'm using this Clean Machine with the US Classic here. It sounds like this. You can hear it just breaking up a little bit, not too much. And let's hear the other side, and let's see it. So you can see there I'm using Minerva. This one is a little bit different. I think maybe it's not quite as gritty and maybe has less mid-range, I think. I don't know. I don't remember. And then I'm using the US Vintage, it looks like. And so I use two different, amps and cabinets here just because I wanted like more separation. I didn't want these to sound exactly the same. And it's really easy to do with this. I have lots of different options, which is great. And then I put them both through here, this M-Comp, this MPI 2500. So one of the things I should mention here is just the overall gain reduction, but if you see, it's not moving down together. And this is really important. I use the link function. You're probably like, why did you change it from 100% to 0? The reason is I didn't want one side becoming too dominant. So sometimes if let's say you hit one really hard, but the other one's softer, one side's going to be louder than the other. And it could be like that all the way through, which sounds unbalanced, or maybe it moves like one hit the left side's louder, one hit the right side's louder. I didn't want any of that. So if I unlink it, it's like having two different compressors, but I don't need to put it on each separate track. I can just put this group together for my rhythm tracks. That's all I did. Sounds good to me. I just want to tame those. And then I have here the EQ. Forgot about this. I didn't do too much. I cut off the low end. Like I said, I don't want that getting in the way of the electric piano or the bass. Cut off the high end. I didn't want that to get in the way of the cymbals. And here I just dropped a little bit at 3,200 hertz. It's getting a little bit spiky there. And I boosted up the mids because I wanted it to sound a little bit thicker. So here we go. I'll let you hear that. So I just wanted that to be thicker. I wanted the other one, the lead clean, to be a little bit louder. And actually, I shouldn't say louder. I wanted to stick out more. Not too much, though. And I really wanted the lead sound to stick out more. Let's go back here. Do this. unsolo everything so you can see what lead I'm using here. So I was going for a kind of like a Greg Howe vibe with this. Went in here using the amp. I have this super overdrive pedal. If you didn't know, M Turbo amp also has a bunch of pedals in it. Just click pedal here, you can find it. This MD1 here, super overdrive MD1, cool. I have the same one, the Apollo amp that I was using before for the clean lead, but this time I have it and I turn the sunshine on. It gives it more distortion. And then I'm going into the Excelsior Huge. Like I said, this one, you don't have to cut off too many lows here, although you can if you want. And then I use this low pass filter here just to get off, a little bit of high end that I didn't need. And then I have the ERs. Let's listen to this first, and then I'll turn off this overdrive. Just a little bit of a boost there. And the ERs, I'll let you hear that. Like I said, this just gives it a little bit more diffusion, I think. And it's just not right in your face. But if you want to, just turn it off. If you want it more in your face. And the same thing, I'd turn down the width. For those that maybe aren't familiar with this, actually, maybe I'm one of the only people that are familiar with this. This ER, you can actually change the mode here. So I have it on the studio setting, but there's other ERs you could choose if you prefer those. From there, let's look at the compression. So I use compression on this usually for distorted leads. I don't, but sometimes I do for the leads just because I don't want them like sticking out any place. And this one, although it's compressed and has lots of distortion, it's not completely distorted. So there will be like some spikes. So that's why I used this. I'm using the M stressor here. I'll let you see what I'm doing. Just to even it out a little bit. And here, use M Turbo EQ. And because I was doing a lead, I wanted to boost like the upper mid-range just so it cuts through. And usually I hate this area around like 900 to 1,000. Usually sounds bad to me, so I cut that out. And then I boosted 700 because I wanted, those mids in there. To me, it sounds a little bit rattier with this on, but in the context of the mix, I think it helped cut through, so it sounds okay. By itself, it sounds worse when I have that on, but in the mix, I think it sounds better. It helps it find its own space. So I think that's about it. The only other things I should say, I should go over the solo lead. I used a slightly different sound for this. Here, play it. So this is very similar to the other one I'm using. Instead of the MD1, I'm using the Gooser. Actually, I didn't change anything here. It sounded all right. Just turning it on made it sound better. This one has a few different settings. I use it on the comp setting instead of the normal setting. Besides that, everything is just straight up. And let me see. I'll put it in here so you can hear it on and off. Just a slight boost, and it adds a little bit of compression. I have the same Apollo amp as before. This one I'm using the Excelsior. This actually, I'm showing this here is probably a prototype, one that doesn't have anything, one that I didn't actually use. So this custom one for me only, I guess. Probably similar to the Excelsior Huge, but I don't know. That's slight differences, so I have my own custom one in here. Also, I did the same thing with the ERs. I have the large room here. I have the width all the way up. It's the same thing. Maybe you don't need to hear that. That's all I did. And the other things I did for lots of these leads is I used reverb here and the delay bus. I'll turn these off so you can hear them, and I'll let you hear them with them on. So now, everything off. So the reverb's just doing a little bit. I showed this in the last one. I'm using this character room, so it's not doing much. It's just adding a little bit of air and space to it. I already have the ERs on there, so I don't need too much. But I just wanted everything kind of in the same room. And then the biggest thing is this delay. So I'm using the BBD, and that's because this is a little bit darker. I didn't want something that was completely digital that sounded like exact repeats. I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle. I don't think, I didn't use any vibrato or anything on this. I didn't use any drive or anything. I didn't adjust too much. The only thing I did was the ducking. So when I'm playing, it's not going to get in the way. Let me see if I can turn it on and off, actually. Use the AB function. Copy this. This is a good way to AB things back and forth. Go over here, paste it, and let's turn the ducking off and see what it sounds like. You can hear it kind of gets in the way, but here. So that's all I did. Another thing I should mention, I changed the width here. So I have it at plus 4%, and this will delay the left and right slightly just so you can get a little bit more width and it's not a mono delay. Really cool. Sounded good to me. I hope you like it too. Also, I should note that the delay goes into the reverb. So I'm setting a little bit of the delay into the reverb. To me, this usually sounds better, but it's kind of up to you. But that's basically how I did things. I believe I went over M Turbo Comp before. I'm trying to think what I do afterwards. I printed this out. I probably put another round, maybe of compression on it, and maybe did some other EQing too, but not too much. This is 99% of what I did and how I put it together. I had to redo this lots of times, and that's where those functions like I showed you here, the A being, actually helped. There's a few effects I had to do this with, and there's lots of things where I had to go back and forth, like the drums I said last time. Those took me a lot of work to do. But with Melda, luckily, it's easy. You can use those A-B functions to see which EQ or which compression setting works best for you in your song, and you can find the right one. And if you make mistakes like I did, you're like, oh no, I changed my reverb up too much, or I changed my delay up too much. All you have to do is just go back from B to A, and you got it. And if you need to do more than B to A, you have all these all the way up to H. So I imagine if you get up to H, you're probably making lots of mistakes. So hopefully you don't have to use all of those. But if you do, you got them. I hope this answered all your questions. If you have anything else you want to ask, please leave that below. If you like this, give me a thumbs up and check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.